Transmigrated as a disabled protagonist, how should I continue the script? Chapter 31, The New Right Leg. Yakimaru's mind was blank, carefully processing each word of the ceremonial phrases in Chinese. Can the storyline continue straight from here? Is this an automatic reward system, rather than a reward from the Transmigration Department? He had signed a trainee contract with the Transmigration Department. It seemed like if a trainee encountered life-threatening danger, the Transmigration Department would step in once to provide protection. But the memory was too distant, and he couldn't quite recall. Or perhaps the Transmigration Department had placed the trainee protection power in the system, and when an unexpected event occurred, the system unlocked the protection function. Imagining it this way, a Class D worker from the Transmigration Department is much better than a Class D worker from the SCP Foundation. What nonsense! Yakimaru, unable to voice more vulgar words, thought bitterly while on the verge of tears, I've sent out so many messages, but not a single response. The first message I receive is an automatic reward from the system. Where is everyone? Where are all your workers from the Transmigration Department? He wanted to file a complaint with the Parallel World Management Bureau. Your Transmigration Department disregards the safety of interns, throwing them into the plot world and then ignoring the subsequent issues. He still considers himself lucky, able to trigger the main storyline mission, but what about those struggling in high-risk worlds, who don't survive long enough to trigger the main storyline mission? What should those interns do then? Open the gift pack. Yes/no. Yakimaru, cherishing the system text, clicked to open the gift pack with a glimmer of hope. Yes. The gift pack jumped out from the mailbox, exploding with the firework effect in the game. The system scattered a large amount of beautiful golden dust. The golden dust in the air formed rows of Chinese characters, not cold at all, but rather the light of hope at dawn. The main storyline of the world of Dororo involves the subjugation of 12 demon gods, while the rest pertains to branch storylines. The system has detected that the intern has advanced 1/12 of the main storyline. Since the intern has not yet restored their body parts, this was an error in detection. To make up for it, a gift pack is directly awarded, allowing the intern to choose the appropriate section for advancement. 1. Obtain the first body part in the main storyline, right leg. 2. Return to foster father Jukai, subdue the demon god lizard demon, and proceed with the storyline 2 years later. 3. Erase the memories of the characters related to the storyline, 100 people. Choose one of the 3 options. Please select your reward, trainee. Yakimaru's gaze was fixed intensely on the first option. He then slowly looked towards the second option, recalling his foster father with difficulty, while the third option did not even enter his range of consideration. Should he choose the body part or return to the main storyline? To set out once again at 16. Placed in the real world, Yakimaru seemed as if he had been comforted by Tezuka Osamu and stopped crying. Aside from not wearing a face mask, his appearance was no different from usual. The illusion only added a layer of beautiful human skin, making him more like an ordinary person, but it couldn't change his original form. Facing Tezuka Osamu, Tezuka, for once, overcame his usual nervousness around his face and waved his hand at him. Yakimaru, let go, allow the illusion on your body to returns. Then, you will be able to speak. Tezuka Osamu felt that a repeated phrase of Dororo sounded really pleasant. Even if one wanted to sob, they would need the chance to do so, and with Yakimaru having lost his tongue and vocal cords, he really wouldn't be able to cry out loud. Tezuka Osamu's fingers were being restrained by him, the prosthetic joints flexible, holding him tightly. Afterward, Yaki-kun, your right leg? Mori Ogai exclaimed in shock. Tezuka Osamu looked at Yakimaru in confusion. Yakimaru, sitting on the chair, was trembling, and his prosthetic right leg suddenly fell onto the ground. New bones had broken through the surface, growing outwards, and at the top of the prosthetic, muscles quickly enveloped the bones of the right leg, with deep red toes, real and solid, pressing against the ground. Thus, the scene of reverse growth, fantastical to the extreme, could only be compared to the "thou shalt not die" ability. Yakimaru relaxed his grip and took Dororo's hand, unintentionally bumping into his newly grown right leg, which seemed to have had its skin peeled off. The right leg was slender and straight, indescribably so, with muscles that felt resilient. Tezuka Osamu circled around the hospital bed and squatted down in front of Yakimaru to examine him. Dazai-kun, gloves. Mori Ogai threw a pair of medical gloves to Tezuka Osamu. Tezuka Osamu quickly put them on, cautious of bacterial infection, and then touched Yakimaru's right leg with his rudimentary medical knowledge. He repeated to confirm that this was a real object, not some illusion caused by an ability. Truly miraculous. Tezuka Osamu's hand moved from his knee to check the yukata-covered thigh. The deep red muscle patterns were warm, with visible blood vessels, no pain, and no tactile sensation. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like a normal thigh after losing its skin. The black-haired boy sitting on the chair appeared bewildered, and even the face of a monster could look so pure. Even if he was a monster, he had to be the most harmless, the one that could move people's hearts the most. However, after sensing something, Yakimaru suddenly jolted, slapping away Tezuka Osamu's hand. "Dororo, what are you groping inside the clothes for?" "Ahem, Dazai-kun." Mori Ogai timely stopped Tezuka Osamu's inappropriate behavior, looking embarrassed, and said, "I have equipment here. You can't figure anything out with your hands. Why not use the equipment to examine the newly grown right leg?" Tezuka Osamu turned around and said to the adult in disapproval, "Mori-san, what kind of indecent things are you thinking about?" He criticized, "My aesthetic sense is perfectly normal, how could I have such thoughts about Yakimaru?" Mori Ogai forced a smile, rolling his eyes internally. "Dazai-kun, you can face Yaki-kun normally, yet you still think your sense of aesthetics is normal? Normal people wouldn't hold hands with such a monster." The port mafia boss in black started the device, leaving the two brats to share the space. Tezuka Osamu was surprised to see Yakimaru move his toes. "Your toes are moving." Something so simple became a great joy when it involved Yakimaru. Yakimaru ultimately chose the first reward option, retrieving his original body part. He didn't expect the first part to be his right leg, feeling both joy and a tinge of regret that the restored part wasn't his eyes or ears. He wanted to see her, to hear her voice, longing for warmth like any human would. As Yakimaru adjusted to his right leg, he made an effort to stand, his body swaying as he tried to maintain balance. His clumsiness almost made Tezuka Osamu laugh, recalling that the other probably had never walked with his own two legs before. Memories may be present right after birth, and language can be acquired during childhood, but something as simple as walking is not something that someone like Yakimaru, who has been disabled for over 10 years, can easily hope for. Yakimaru learning to walk is just as significant as a child standing upright for the first time in life. He takes another step closer to being an ordinary person. "Yakimaru, come on," Tezuka Osamu quietly said, almost inaudibly. He didn't help the other person up. Even doting parents will grit their teeth as they watch their children stagger and wobble while learning to walk, let alone someone as rational as him. Learning to walk is something that everyone must accomplish. Tezuka Osamu and Yakimaru maintained a 1-meter distance, with Tezuka leading the way in front of him. Tezuka's entire attention was on Yakimaru. Without the suppression of, no longer human, and under the bond of their contract, an unimaginable illusion once again appeared on Yakimaru. The puppet, covered in human skin, had the face of a delicate black-haired boy, moving toward Tezuka Osamu's direction. His toes gripped the ground, and his prosthetic legs struggled to keep him walking. Each step forward is a step in life, affirming the will to survive that Yakimaru forged after crossing over. "I want to survive. I want to defeat those demon gods and reclaim my remaining body parts. I want to live until the day I see Dororo again, and return together with Dororo to see our foster father. I'm sorry, I didn't choose you, father." As Yakimaru slowly walked forward, having regained his right leg, he no longer resented the transmigration department. He opened his heart to accept that Jukai was his father, not just a character in a predestined story who had saved him. When the medical scanner was prepared, Yakimaru was extremely obedient. As soon as he was told to lie down, he immediately lay down. He speculated that Dororo's father was not only a bandit leader, interacting with evildoers every day, but also somehow proficient in medical skills. Naturally, someone recovering his body in such a way would astonish people in ancient times. It perfectly fits the bone structure. It's as if it grew there naturally, without any difference. Mori Ogai carefully bandaged Yakamaru's right leg. Though his body was healthy, it was still important not to leave exposed muscles out in the open air, primarily because it could scare people. Being so well behaved, playing with Yaki-kun really is as cute as a puppet. Mori Ogai couldn't help but think to himself, his brain forcibly ignoring the terrifying image from before. The illusionist is truly skilled. Tezuka Osamu swallowed a whole apple as he finished looking through the examination report. So the right leg is restored. Rather than saying it's restored, it's more like it's returned. After Mori Ogai finished tying the bandage, he pulled the robe over Yakamaru's thigh and gently lifted the boy, who seemed uncertain whether he should sit up or not. Perhaps we all misunderstood. His body parts were stored elsewhere, and once certain conditions are met, they will return to him completely intact. Moreover, I discovered that his right leg is extremely powerful. Whether it's the bone density or the muscle distribution, it surpasses even those who have trained for years. Mori Ogai hit the key points in just a few words, demonstrating an ability no less than reading a script. Tezuka Osamu raised his tone with a casual, "Oh." Mori Ogai subtly warned, "Don't think of targeting Chiyoku-kun again. He needs rest." Tezuka Osamu complained, "Mori-san is truly someone who discards the old for the new. Chiya hasn't even worked for you yet, and you already think he's yours. Is my labor not worth anything?" Without listening to Mori-san's explanation, Tezuka Osamu pushed him away, causing the pure white life flame to once again fall into Yakamaru's inner world. Yakamaru sat there watching for a long time, never tiring of it. He didn't need to care about what was happening in the outside world, Dororo would always be by his side. Finally, a faint smile appeared on Yakamaru's face. It seemed like he had endured countless storms. Always pure. This resilience left a deep impression on Tezuka Osamu, but it was not enough. To allow this person to walk under the sun like an ordinary person without being ostracized, there were still many things to do in the future. "Yakamaru, call me Dororo." "No, since you rely on me to survive, you should call me Master. Hurry and call me Master." "Dororo." Avoiding Tezuka Osamu, Elise appeared, tugging at Rintaro's sleeve, saying, "They are so boring." Mori Ogai silently smiled, "Don't disturb Tezuka-kun, the furry." Tezuka Osamu spared him a bullet glare. Who is the child here? However, in Mori Ogai's view, no one truly grows up. Such feelings don't exist between adults, they are only cultivated during the innocent and immature times. Tezuka Osamu felt a bit parched and ran off to find some water. After hurrying along the way for so long, he could finally rest for a moment. Taking advantage of Tezuka Osamu's absence, Mori Ogai asked quite seriously, "Yaki-kun, what am I in your eyes?" Elise also widened her curious blue eyes. In Rin Taro's eyes, Yakamaru surely wasn't simply a villain, right? Relying solely on his intuition, Yakamaru silently gazed at Mori Ogai's life flame. It still stung his eyes. How should he address this fiery man? At this moment, Yakamaru had already determined that Dororo would be a lifelong companion. Even if they encounter difficulties in the future, nothing would be able to separate them. The main storyline mission of the world of Dororo wasn't about romance. Even if his identity as a transmigrator were to be exposed, and he had learned a little too much Japanese, it wouldn't matter. He couldn't bear the thought of Dororo leaving him and being with someone else. Thus, Yakamaru discarded his identity as a transmigrator and spoke in Japanese. Shuto. Ha. Mori Ogai choked on his own saliva and continuously coughed. Hearing the noise, Tezuka Osamu returned and asked with a suspicious tone. "Mori-san, what did you say to Yakamaru? He can't even hear you." "I wasn't underestimating Yaki-kun's instincts." Mori Ogai's expression was somewhat restrained. It wasn't until he left the room that Mori Ogai's back trembled. His hand holding Elise showed a strange smile, and the thoughts of his ability user self overlapped with his mind in an instant. Dazai-kun, will you ever have a girlfriend in the future? Because what Yakimaru had said was father-in-law. Chapter 31 End.